Pink. Tiny flecks of it, trailing from the front door all the way to the refrigerator, like someone had dragged a party across our home without cleaning up after. I stared at those sparkles for almost an hour. Not because they mattered, but because they didn't. She didn't even wipe her shoes. I'd already been awake. Not that I slept. I hadn't slept in 2 nights. Maybe longer. Time had started folding in on itself like laundry. I was sitting at the table, fully dressed, heart pounding like I had just run a marathon, and my hand was resting beside the note. The one I wrote 7 hours earlier. 8, maybe. Every few minutes I changed one word, then changed it back. She opened the door at 5:12 a.m. Laughing. Actually laughing. I could hear it before she even stepped inside, her laugh, loud, loose, too happy for someone coming home to a husband who hadn't heard from her since the previous morning. She didn't see me at first. She was on the phone. Yeah, I know. I still smell like tequila and smoke, she giggled. He's probably still asleep. Honestly, I don't even care if he's mad at this point. I didn't breathe. She turned the corner, still holding her heels in one hand and a crumpled blazer in the other, and froze when she saw me. Her eyes darted to the note. I had propped it against the salt shaker like a final act of defiance. 4 lines. That's all it took. She didn't read it right away. She just stared at me, then said, "You're being dramatic again." That's when she reached for it. She read the first line. Her smile twitched. The second line. Her mouth opened, closed. By the third, she was blinking like someone had turned on a harsh light. By the end, her hand was shaking. "I'm leaving. I've already moved the money. Good luck with your late nights and your new lifestyle. You made your choice, Piper." She looked up at me. "You're seriously doing this?" I didn't respond. Because behind her, behind that smug, sleep-deprived face of hers, I noticed something. A shadow on her neck. A faint smudge of red lipstick along her collarbone. Not the shade she was wearing. And just like that, something inside me went quiet. You ever feel your body give up on emotion completely? Like your own brain pulls the plug just to protect itself? That's what happened. My vision narrowed. My ears rang. I heard her say something about overreacting, but the words felt like background noise. She said she had explanations. I stood up and walked out the door. I haven't been back since. But you should know, this isn't just a story about a bad night or a cheating wife. No, this goes deeper. Much deeper. Because what I discovered in the next 48 hours about where she'd been and who she was really with unraveled everything I thought I understood about my life. What she did next wasn't just betrayal. It was planned. And in part 2, I'll show you exactly how I uncovered it. Down to the date, the photos, and the fake name she used. Yeah, you heard that right. Fake name. I didn't go far at first. Just sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me upright. I didn't even turn the engine on. My brain was too fogged over to remember how to breathe, let alone drive. But my body wouldn't stop shaking. It was like my muscles had finally figured out what my heart had known for weeks. Something was very, very wrong. 10 minutes passed. Or 30. I don't know. All I know is I started scrolling through our phone bill, something I hadn't done in years. We shared an account. I figured if she was going to treat our marriage like a joke, then I had the right to read the punchline. That's when I saw it. The same number, over and over. Always after midnight. Always when she said she was with coworkers or running errands. Sometimes 4 or 5 calls a night, each one short, just a few minutes. But they were there. Constant. Familiar. Hidden in plain sight. I copied the number into Google. I didn't expect anything to show up. Most personal numbers don't lead anywhere obvious. But this one did. The first thing that popped up? A landscaping business. My stomach dropped. Because I knew exactly who owned it. Harper Land and Lawn. I'd hired them myself last spring to redo the backyard patio. The guy, Paul Harper, had come out for the quote. Tall. Smooth-talking. The kind of guy who wore cologne to measure sprinklers. Jolene had flirted with him right in front of me. I'd even joked about it at the time, trying to be the cool husband. She laughed and said, "Relax, Alden. I'm not into guys who wear tank tops and cargo shorts." Apparently, she was. I stared at the screen until my thumb went numb. Then I opened our shared photo album. The one she hadn't touched in months. Except, she had touched it. There was a new folder, hidden under a stupid name, April Meal Prep. Inside were 7 photos. All blurry. All indoors. All taken in the same room. But the background wasn't our house. It was his. I recognized the patterned curtains. The granite countertop from when I signed the payment check. There were wine glasses, a record player, her jacket on the back of a stool, her phone on the counter, and in one of the photos taken by her, I assume was Paul's hand on her knee. Nothing explicit, nothing that would get flagged, but everything about it screamed intimacy, the kind you don't share with your landscaper. I didn't cry. I just kept looking, kept punishing myself. Why? Because I needed to understand how long I'd been the fool. I needed to know if every laugh, every excuse, every skipped dinner was part of some sick build-up to this moment. Then it got worse. A voicemail. One she must have forgotten to delete. I played it. His voice came through, low, smug, familiar. Last night was insane. Can't stop thinking about it. I swear, if I hear your husband whining in the background again, I'm stealing you for good. I mean it. I dropped the phone. Not out of drama. Out of instinct. Like it had burned me. That was when everything finally shifted. Not just emotionally, physically. My chest got tight. My arms felt heavy. I couldn't catch a full breath. I thought I was having a heart attack, but I knew better. It was panic, rage, grief, every emotion collapsing at once. So I drove. I didn't know where to. I just drove until I saw a gas station and pulled over to throw up. My legs gave out in the bathroom stall. I sat on the floor of that place, surrounded by old gum wrappers and a broken paper towel dispenser, and wondered how the hell my life had become this. 12 years of marriage. For what? For a voicemail from a man who cuts hedges and laughs at me behind my back? I eventually checked into a cheap motel under a fake name. Not because I was hiding, but because I didn't want her to find me yet. I needed time to think, to feel, to stop shaking. And that's when I decided something I never thought I'd do. I was going to talk to him, face to face. Not for revenge, not to throw punches, but to look him in the eye, this man who thought I was a joke, and ask him why. Why her? Why me? But what I found when I went to his business address wasn't what I expected. He wasn't there. Someone else was. And what she told me changed everything. I pulled up to Harper Land and Lawn around noon the next day, still wearing the same wrinkled t-shirt from the night I left. There was a faint coffee stain across the chest I hadn't noticed until I saw my reflection in the truck window. I almost turned around right then. I looked like a man halfway through unraveling, unkempt, sleep-deprived, shaking with some cocktail of adrenaline and dread. But I told myself I wasn't leaving until I had answers. The office was a squat beige building wedged between a tire shop and a bait store. There was a hand-painted sign on the glass door, "Walk-ins welcome. Please ring the bell." I rang it twice. A woman answered. Mid-30s, strawberry blonde, tired eyes. Her name tag read, Tanya. "You looking for lawn care or snow removal?" she asked, barely glancing up from her computer. I hesitated. Actually, I was hoping to speak to Paul. Paul Harper. That made her look up. She blinked like I just asked for someone who didn't exist. "You're about 6 months too late," she said. "What?" "He sold the business. Back in January. Packed up, moved down to Louisiana or Alabama, one of the A states. Left no forwarding address. Just vanished." I stood there, absorbing that. My ears started ringing again, that same dizzy sound I'd heard the night I left. "You sure?" I asked. "Tall guy? Brown hair? Real smooth talker." "Oh, I remember him," she said flatly. Hard to forget a man who left without paying his final invoices. I felt like the floor had just been yanked out from under me. Paul was gone? Not just ghosted me, but ghosted the entire state? Something didn't add up. People don't just disappear after cozying up with another man's wife unless they have a reason. A really good or really bad reason. I thanked her, stumbled back to my car, and just sat there for a while, staring at the steering wheel. My thoughts were looping. Did Jolene know? Did she help him leave? Or worse, did he run away from her? I needed to think, but I didn't have anywhere to go. I couldn't go back to the house. Couldn't call friends. I pushed most of them away over the years. Jolene always said they were negative energy, and I'd been stupid enough to listen. So I did what any desperate man with no dignity left might do. I drove back toward the city. Not to confront Jolene. Not yet. I had a better idea. She'd mentioned once, offhand, carelessly, that she had a second Instagram account, just for fun. A throwaway comment over dinner, months ago, when she was tipsy and laughing about how she had more followers than her own boss. I didn't ask questions then. I didn't even remember the username. But I remembered one thing. She'd taken a picture at a rooftop bar. The caption was some cliché like Friday vibes, and I remembered the bar name printed on the cocktail napkin in the photo. Rexford Lounge. I searched the place, scrolled their location tag, and began digging. I must have looked through 300 posts, random people, birthday shots, bachelorette parties, until I found her. Jolene, laughing in the background of someone else's photo. Clear as day. She wasn't with Paul. She was with another man, one I'd never seen before. In the photo, she was sitting on his lap. His arm was around her waist. She was holding a drink with her mouth open mid-laugh, her hand on his chest. He wasn't hiding it. Neither was she. And here's what made my blood run cold. That photo was posted 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Which means everything with Paul. That had ended. She was already on to someone else. I felt my stomach turn. She wasn't cheating on me with a guy. She was cycling through them. Paul was just one name in a chain I hadn't even begun to unravel. I clicked the user who posted the photo. A fitness coach. Her bio linked to a group chat promotion app. And through there, I found the man with Jolene. His name was Emery. Another name. Another face. Another secret. I screenshotted everything. I should have stopped there. Should have turned off my phone, gone back to the motel, and tried to sleep. But part of me needed more. I wasn't satisfied knowing she had moved on. I needed to know how far she'd gone. And if she was doing this publicly, without shame, maybe there was more out there. Something I could use. Something to finally prove that I wasn't crazy, or insecure, or dramatic. I searched his name. And that's when I found something that made my jaw lock. A live stream. From last night. And in that video, right there on the screen, was my wife. In his apartment. Sitting on his couch. Wearing my hoodie. Smiling like she hadn't destroyed someone. And Emery? He called her his girl. He even kissed her forehead on camera. I didn't even realize I was crying until I saw the teardrops landing on my phone screen. That hoodie had been a birthday gift from her. One of the few things she ever bought for me without a holiday or guilt attached. I wore it every rainy Sunday for years. Now she was draped in it like some prize for a man who didn't even know my name. But he was about to. Because tomorrow, I was going to meet him. And I wasn't going to tell him who I was. Not at first. But I had a plan. And for once, I didn't feel like the weak one anymore. I didn't sleep that night either. I lay in the stiff motel bed, staring up at the water-stained ceiling, the fan above spinning in slow circles like it was mocking me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face on that live stream. Laughing, smiling, kicking her feet up on a stranger's coffee table in my hoodie like she hadn't just obliterated a decade of marriage. I wondered if she even remembered my name while she curled up beside him, or if I'd already been filed away in some mental junk drawer labeled Old Life. I kept thinking about how Emery looked at her, like she was the prize at the end of a long chase. That weird mix of infatuation and entitlement. I've seen that look before. Not toward me. No. But I've seen men wear it when they think they've won. And I realized something. He didn't know about me. Not really. He probably knew of me. Some vague ex she'd badmouthed, painted as boring, sensitive, clingy. The kind of man women are better off escaping. But he didn't know the truth. He didn't know I was still legally her husband. That I paid the mortgage. That the car she probably drove to his place was still registered in my name. That while she was dancing barefoot in his kitchen, the bills for her entire lifestyle were quietly draining out of my bank account. So yeah, I decided I had to meet him. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to scream or throw punches or make a scene. That wasn't me. That's never been me. I'm the kind of guy who apologizes when someone spills coffee on me. But I needed to look him in the eyes. I needed to understand how someone like him slid so easily into my life while I was still standing in it, invisible. I started with the gym. That much I had picked up from his social media. He trained at a private facility about 15 minutes from the motel. I drove there early, parked across the street, and watched. I know how that sounds. But I wasn't stalking. I was studying. I had to see what kind of man she replaced me with. At 8:24 a.m., he arrived. Drove a lifted black SUV with dark tints. Music blaring even before the door opened. He stepped out in designer joggers, no shirt, towel around his neck. Everything about him screamed curated ego. The tattoos, the way he greeted the front desk girl with a wink, the way he took a selfie on the sidewalk before walking inside. He was a character, and he knew it. I waited in the car for an hour. My hands were shaking the whole time. Not from fear, more from rage, confusion, and some kind of adrenaline cocktail my body wasn't built to handle. When he finally came out, I stepped onto the sidewalk as he passed. "Hey, Emery?" I said. He turned, sunglasses already halfway on. He paused, a flicker of surprise in his brow. Yeah, I think we need to talk. About Jolene. And just like that, his whole expression changed. At first, I thought he might laugh, like I was some jealous ex come to plead or punch. But he didn't laugh. He just stared at me and said, "Who are you?" "I'm her husband," I replied. I watched the blood drain from his face. He blinked a few times. "Wait, husband? She said you were separated. Divorced, even." "Not quite. She never filed." He looked around nervously, then motioned toward a bench down the block. We walked there in silence. He sat first. I stayed standing. I wanted the high ground, even if it was only by 2 feet. "I didn't know," he said quietly, finally pulling his sunglasses off. "She made it sound like you were some distant memory. Like some toxic guy she escaped." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Of course she did. And I guess you're her redemption arc, right? The one who rescued her from her boring husband who just didn't get her." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I don't want drama, man." I stepped closer. "Neither did I. But she brought it anyway. Right into our home. Right into my life." He held up his hands like I was about to swing. "I didn't." "Look," he said, "I'll back off. I didn't sign up for this. She lied to me, too." I nodded. I believed him. Or at least part of me wanted to. But that wasn't the end. Because just as I turned to leave, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then looked back at me, visibly uncomfortable. "What?" I asked. He hesitated. "She's texting me right now. Said you left a note. Said you're spiraling." That word, spiraling, hit me like a punch to the chest. She was trying to spin it. Again. Turn the narrative in real time. Make herself the victim. Paint me as the fragile one. She said what else? I asked, voice tighter now. He cleared his throat. "That you emptied the joint account. That you were threatening her." I blinked. I did move the money. To protect it. Not to threaten her. He nodded slowly. "Look, man, you seem like a decent guy. But you should know, she's not just with me." That stopped me. "What do you mean?" She was still seeing someone else. Even last week. A guy named Jace. I found out when she slipped up during dinner. She laughed it off, said it was just a fling. But he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I'd been replaced by Paul, then by Emery. Now there was Jace. God knows who else. I thanked him for being honest. Then I walked back to the car. And inside, for the first time in days, I didn't feel just broken. I felt angry, controlled, cold, focused. And I knew what I had to do next. I was going home. Not to beg, not to fight, but to collect what was left of my life. And to make sure she could never touch it again. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the sun was starting to set and everything looked exactly the same as when I left. The flower pots Jolene never watered were still on the porch. The porch light flickered the way it had for the past 3 weeks, something I'd meant to fix but never got around to. For a second, it felt like I was walking back into my old life. Like maybe none of this had really happened, and I'd step inside to find her napping on the couch, half watching reality TV, mumbling something about Thai takeout. But I knew better. The silence wasn't comforting anymore. It was a warning. I unlocked the door slowly and stepped in. The house was quiet, too quiet, unnatural, the kind of stillness that feels staged. And it was staged. I noticed it almost immediately. The dining table had been wiped down. Her shoes were lined up neatly by the door. Even the scent of air freshener hung unnaturally heavy, like someone trying to scrub away guilt with lavender and lemon. She knew I was coming back. Not because I told her, but because that's what she expected. That I'd calm down. That I'd be rational. That I'd play my part, the emotionally drained husband who storms out and then crawls back, too exhausted to demand answers. I wasn't playing anymore. I walked straight to the bedroom. Her suitcase was on the bed, half-packed. Not the way someone packs to leave for good. The way someone packs to make you think they're leaving, just long enough to scare you into begging them to stay. She was trying to control the script. Too late. I opened the closet. My side was untouched, just as I left it. But hers? Some clothes were gone. The ones she used for her little nights out. The red dress. The sequin jacket. The silver heels. All missing. But her work clothes? Still hanging. Her toothbrush? Still in the holder. Her makeup bag still by the mirror. I opened the top drawer of her nightstand. That's when I found it. A burner phone. Small. Cheap. Still warm. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. She hadn't even locked it. No fingerprint. No passcode. Like she didn't think I'd ever question her enough to find it. I scrolled. The texts weren't to Emery. They weren't to Paul. Not even to Jace. They were to a number saved under S. And the messages, they made my hands go numb. He's finally unraveling. Shouldn't be long now. I left the account open on purpose. I want him to do something dumb. No, he doesn't know about you. I made sure. We'll be free soon. Free? What the hell did that mean? I backed out of the thread, scanned the call logs. Dozens of late-night calls. A few voice memos, too. I didn't dare open them right away. I didn't think I could stomach hearing her voice whispering to another man again. But then, in the photo album of the phone, there it was. A picture. Not of her. Of me. Me, sleeping. My heart stopped. It was recent. My hair was longer. Same blanket we still had on the bed. She must have taken it at 3 or 4 in the morning, while I lay there completely unaware. Why would she send that to someone? What kind of twisted game was she playing? I put the phone down and stared at the wall. My mind was spinning. Nothing made sense. None of this fit the narrative of a simple affair. This was bigger, creepier, more calculated. That's when I heard the front door creak. I froze. Footsteps. Slow. Familiar. She was humming. She was humming. Like she had just come back from the store. Like this was just another normal Thursday, and she hadn't upended my entire life. I stood in the bedroom doorway, arms crossed, burner phone in hand. She didn't see me right away. She turned the corner, keys still in hand, purse over her shoulder, and stopped dead in her tracks when she saw me. "Oh," she said. Just that one word. Then her eyes locked on the phone. You know that moment when someone's face breaks? Not all at once, but in small, precise ways? The twitch in the eyebrow, the way their mouth opened slightly, the faintest shake in their breathing? I watched it all happen in real time. "You were in my drawer?" she asked, voice calm, too calm. "You left it unlocked," I replied. Almost like you wanted me to find it. She stepped forward slowly, eyes darting between my hand and my face. "That's not what you think." "Oh, really?" I raised the phone. "Because what I think is that I've been living with a woman who's been plotting something behind my back. And not just cheating. This is more than that. You were documenting me. Planning something. With someone else." She swallowed hard. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Alden." "No," I said, stepping forward. "I don't think I'm blowing it up enough." We stood there in silence. Then I asked her something that changed everything. "Who the hell is S?" She didn't flinch. She didn't deny it. She just smiled. That same smile I saw when she walked in at 5 a.m. And she said, "You'll find out soon." Then she walked past me, straight into the kitchen, like we weren't in the middle of a total psychological breakdown. I didn't follow. Not right away. Because now I was scared of the answer. And for the first time in this entire nightmare, I realized I might not just be dealing with betrayal, but with a setup. I didn't follow her into the kitchen right away. I stood frozen in the hallway, clutching the burner phone like it had turned into a live grenade. My heart wasn't just pounding, it was thudding in a slow, deep rhythm that seemed to echo through my ribs. "You'll find out soon." That's what she said, and she meant it. Not like a bluff. Not like a woman caught red-handed who panicked and blurted something out. She said it like someone confident, like someone who had been waiting for this moment. Like the next move was already made and she was just watching me finally catch up. I slowly walked toward the kitchen. I didn't know what I was expecting to find. Maybe her packing. Maybe her breaking down and confessing. But no. She was standing by the counter, eating yogurt. Yogurt. As if nothing had happened. As if I hadn't just uncovered a secret phone filled with lies and whispered plans to erase me from the life I built. She didn't look up. "I want you to listen," I said carefully, every word shaking under the weight of my nerves. "Because once I walk out that door again, I'm not coming back." She finally looked at me, spoon in her mouth, like I was interrupting her morning routine. I continued. "I'm not the man you think I am. I may not be loud. I may not scream or throw things or chase you down in jealous fits. But I see things. I feel them. And for months, I felt you pulling away. I gave you space. I gave you trust. And you weaponized both." "You're being dramatic," she said, voice flat, uninterested. "No," I said, stepping closer, placing the burner phone between us on the kitchen island like a piece of evidence. "This is dramatic. Secret phones. Hidden messages. Conversations about me like I'm a roadblock to remove." She sighed. "You don't understand the full picture." "Then explain it," I said, louder now. "Who is S? What is this plan I was never supposed to see?" She paused, and then she smiled again. That same cold, unsettling smile I was starting to associate with dread. She licked the spoon, then set it gently in the sink. "S," she said softly, "is someone who actually knows me. I blinked. You're going to have to do better than that. She walked over to the cupboard, grabbed a glass, filled it with water, and drank slowly, drawing it out, stretching every second like she was in complete control. Then, finally, she said something that nearly made my knees buckle. S is my ex-fiancé. I stared at her. What are you talking about? You told me he moved to Alaska. You said he ghosted you right before your wedding. She nodded. I lied. We've been in contact for the past 2 years. I stepped back, stunned. Why? Why would you hide that? Why bring him back into your life? Her eyes narrowed. Because you were never supposed to be permanent, Alden. You were the safe choice. The quiet one. The backup plan. The guy I could settle with when my real life didn't pan out. It was like every molecule in my body twisted. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. You were kind, she continued, almost mockingly. Too kind. You worshipped me. And I needed that for a while. Until he came back. And then I realized I'd made a mistake. I whispered, so what was the plan? To ruin me slowly? Her silence was answer enough. But then she gave me more. She walked back over to the counter and opened a drawer. Pulled out a manila envelope. Thick. Heavy. She dropped it on the counter next to the phone. I was going to give this to you next week, she said. After everything was finalized. I opened it slowly, not knowing what to expect. Inside were photocopies, documents, screenshots, bank statements. But they weren't about her. They were about me. Old emails. Notes I'd written to friends. One from a therapist I'd seen briefly after my mother passed. Stuff I hadn't thought about in years. I hired someone, she said casually, to track you. Just in case. In case of what? In case you became a problem? My legs gave out. I stumbled back into a chair, heart racing. This wasn't about infidelity anymore. This was psychological warfare. She'd been building a file on me. Preparing a case. Like she was stacking ammunition in the background while smiling at me over morning coffee. I looked up at her, my voice hoarse. You were trying to make me look unstable. She didn't confirm it. She didn't need to. My hand shook as I gathered the documents back into the envelope. My mouth felt dry. My lungs constricted with something I hadn't felt in years, fear. Not just heartbreak or betrayal. Fear. That I had slept beside someone who saw me not as a partner, but as an obstacle to eliminate. And that's when I noticed something else. The burner phone buzzed again. A new message popped up on the lock screen. From S. It read, Is it done? I looked at her. She looked back, smiling. I stood up, grabbed the envelope, and said 5 words I never imagined saying in that house. I'm calling a lawyer. Today. She didn't move. She just whispered, You should have done that months ago. I left the house like I was walking out of a burning building, slow at first, but with every step, something inside me picked up speed. My ears were ringing, my breath was uneven, and I was gripping that manila envelope like it was the last piece of my sanity. I didn't even look back. I couldn't, because I was afraid if I did, I'd see her still standing in that doorway with that chilling, smug little smirk, watching me fall apart exactly the way she wanted. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore. Not even close. It wasn't about sex or lies or even the affair. It was about intent, planning, manipulation. She had kept that burner phone under our roof. She let me sleep beside her every night while documenting me behind my back. She wasn't trying to escape me, she was building a story in which I was the villain. And she was the poor woman trapped in the narrative of a fragile, unwell husband. The problem? I hadn't given her enough to use. So she started creating it. I drove to the first law office I could find. The waiting room was sterile and over-air-conditioned, the kind of place where people sat quietly, nursing the end of their relationships with stiff hands and folded papers. I didn't have an appointment, but I must have looked wrecked enough that the woman at the front desk waved me back to someone immediately. The attorney's name was Jonas Selden. Mid-50s, gray suit, glasses that hung halfway down his nose like he'd been reading people for decades. He sat across from me in a small office that smelled faintly of old books and something citrusy, maybe furniture polish. I handed him the envelope. Didn't say a word for the first 2 minutes. Just let him flip through it in silence. When he finally looked up, he exhaled sharply through his nose. You're lucky you came in when you did, he said. I don't feel lucky, I muttered. This isn't a divorce strategy, he said. This is a takedown. Whoever this woman is, she was building a foundation to declare you mentally unfit. And if I had to guess, she was preparing to file for power of attorney, or worse, a restraining order. I blinked at him. Restraining order? For what? To claim you were unstable, possibly abusive. And trust me, Judges don't need much to believe a case like that if the story's wrapped in the right bow. Especially if she shows up first, with documentation, claims of emotional volatility, and a secret phone filled with carefully timed texts from friends backing her up. I felt the room tilt. She's good, he added. Disturbingly good. I asked him what to do next. His instructions were clear. Cut financial ties immediately. Cancel joint cards. Freeze shared assets. Change all passwords. Document everything. And most importantly, don't go back to the house without a witness or legal representation. I called the bank from the parking lot. Froze the accounts. Flagged unusual activity. Password changed. I texted a longtime friend I hadn't seen in over a year. Someone Jolene always considered too negative. Funny how those are the people who show up when it counts. He agreed to meet me the next morning, help me collect the last of my belongings. Said he knew something was off about her from the start. But before I could even exhale, my phone buzzed. It was a message from a number I didn't recognize. You made a mistake coming back. You don't know who you're dealing with. There was no name attached. No context. But it didn't take a genius to connect the dots. It was him. The ex-fiancé. The ghost in the background pulling strings. I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the screen. I could have replied. I could have challenged him, threatened legal action, warned him to stay away. But something told me he wanted a reaction. They both did. They wanted me to panic. They wanted me to slip up. To become the version of myself that she had written in her fake little story. So I didn't reply. I forwarded the message to Jonas. Then I turned my phone off. That night, I stayed at my friend's place. We barely talked. He just poured me a drink, handed me a blanket, and said, "Whatever she did to you, it's not on you. It's on her. Remember that." I didn't sleep again. Not really. Just stared at the ceiling, tracing the cracks like a roadmap of where my life had split. I kept replaying every smile she gave me. Every time she touched my arm when I was feeling low. Every "I love you" whispered like a lullaby when the lights were out. None of it meant anything now. Because behind all of it, there had been calculations. And the worst part? She had been so close to getting away with it. If I hadn't found that burner phone, if I hadn't shown up when I did, if I hadn't trusted my gut, even after months of gaslighting and guilt, I'd be the one locked out of my own life. She wanted the house, the accounts, the image of a woman betrayed, the victim of an unwell man who just snapped. And tomorrow? Tomorrow I was going back for the final time. With a witness. With legal protection. With every thread of evidence gathered and locked away. I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. But little did I know, when I walked back into that house the next day, she would be waiting. Not with tears. Not with a lawyer. But with something far more shocking. Something that even Jonas couldn't have predicted. The next morning felt like the final act in a stage play I never auditioned for. I stood outside the house with my friend Darren. He insisted on coming with me. No arguments allowed. The air was unusually still, as if even the wind was holding its breath. My palms were sweating, heart ticking like a metronome just beneath my collar. I wasn't here to fight. I wasn't here for closure. I was here to end it. On my terms. We stepped inside just before noon. I expected a storm. A confrontation. Yelling, accusations, maybe even crocodile tears. But instead, the house was quiet. Too quiet. And Jolene was sitting at the kitchen table, hands folded, calm as a sculpture. She didn't flinch when she saw Darren. She didn't say a word to me. Not at first. I stayed by the door, back straight, nerves crackling like static. Darren stood a few steps behind me, watching her like a hawk. After a long pause, she spoke. "So this is how you want it to end?" I didn't blink. "It's already over, Jolene. I'm just collecting the last of my things." She looked down at her hands. Then, shockingly, reached into the drawer and slid over the burner phone. "You forgot this," she said. "I figured you'd want to keep it for your file." It was a small gesture, but it meant more than she realized. It meant she knew I wasn't bluffing, that the web sheet spun was coming apart. "I have copies," I said, taking the phone. "Multiple. Lawyers, bank, police. Everything." She nodded. "Just once." No anger. No denial. "I didn't think you'd ever stand up to me," she said, almost like she admired it. "I didn't either," I replied. And it was true. I'd been a pushover most of my life. I let people step over me because I didn't want to rock the boat. But something broke loose inside me these past few days, some final tether to the man who thought love meant suffering quietly. That version of me was gone, and I wasn't mourning him anymore. I never wanted to hurt you, she added. Then why did you? I asked. She didn't answer. She didn't have one, and I didn't need it. Within 30 minutes, I had everything I came for: my personal files, my laptop, a few childhood keepsakes, the book my mom gave me when she was sick, and the last photo we took together where I still recognized myself in the frame. I walked out without saying goodbye. She didn't stop me. Back at Darren's place, I sat on the porch for a long time just letting myself feel. And I'll admit, grief came first. A wave of it. Because when someone you trusted poisons your world, it doesn't leave cleanly. It leaves residue. But right behind the grief came something else: relief. Like stepping out of a fog and seeing the road for the first time in months. And then came hope. Over the next few weeks, things moved quickly. My lawyer filed the paperwork. The financial damage was contained. She didn't fight much, maybe because she knew I had more than enough evidence to dismantle every version of the story she was planning to tell. The burner phone, the texts, the envelope, the bank logs, the message from S. It was airtight. But the real healing didn't come from the courtroom. It came in small, strange ways. It came when I found myself laughing again, for no reason, while watching dumb sitcom reruns with Darren. It came the night I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since college, just to hear my own voice again, not filtered through her expectations. And it came when I reconnected with an old friend, Clara, who used to be part of our circle before Jolene pushed her away. She said, "I always wondered where you went." And I said, "I think I'm just now finding out myself." I won't lie and say I was magically okay. Healing isn't neat or cinematic. But day by day, I started choosing myself again. And eventually, that heavy feeling in my chest stopped showing up in the morning. A few months later, I stood on a trail overlooking the valley behind Darren's place. It was early evening, and the sky was lit in that quiet gold that only shows up in the last 10 minutes of sunlight. I watched birds glide over the trees and thought, she tried to erase me, but I'm still here. I'm still me. And that's enough. Thank you for reading. If you've ever been made to feel small, invisible, or unworthy, please know you are none of those things. You're just one honest choice away from freedom. And when you choose it, your whole life starts again.